Hi, I'm Antonio Mora. Friends often come up to me and ask, what's happened to TV news and where can they find serious news on television? I don't have much of an answer to that anymore, other than that I blame everything that's wrong with TV news on Patty Chayefsky and Peter Finch. Their movie, Network, written by Chayefsky, debuted in 1976. The satirical film is about a network anchorman who goes off the rails after he's told that he's being fired. Played by Finch, the character, Howard Beale, famously rants on TV that he's mad as hell and can't take it anymore. His rantings make ratings spike, and instead of getting fired, his new show becomes a major hit. I won't spoil the rest of it for the two of you who haven't seen it. Chayefsky and Finch died before they saw just how prescient their satire was. I can't imagine they thought there was any chance their fiction would become reality. And it couldn't have before 1987. That's when the FCC abandoned its fairness doctrine, a policy that required TV and radio stations to present a balance of viewpoints. The demise of the rule opened the door for conservative talk radio, and then a decade later to what became liberal and conservative TV in the form of MSNBC and Fox News. CNN's 24-hour anti-Trump fest was late to the outraged TV party a couple of decades later. The acquisition of the TV networks in the mid-'80s by publicly held corporations didn't help either. All of a sudden, news wasn't just a public service, it had to turn a profit. And guess what? Making noise got ratings. TV and radio executives quickly learned the lesson that people prefer to listen to pundits yelling opinions at each other than objective journalists reporting the news. Here's where network exerted even more bad influence. In another rant, Howard Beale complained about how he'd spent 15 years sitting behind that desk, the dispassionate pundit, reporting with seeming detachment the daily parade of lunacies that constitute the news. And just once, I wanted to say what I really felt. Beale was in effect arguing against the poised, somewhat impersonal anchors like Walter Cronkite, who delivered information in a straightforward way, letting viewers connect to the stories and the images used to illustrate them. Admittedly, if you look at some old newscasts, you would probably find them and their robotic anchors to be deadly boring. The more conversational style of anchoring in recent decades was a positive evolution. In fact, in my university class, I teach prospective anchors to be connected to what they say. They can't report about a mass shooting at a school in the same way they describe debate in Congress over the budget. But the pendulum has swung too far away from the dispassionate anchors of the past, bringing us to what we have now, these overwrought anchors of the present, who tell viewers what to think instead of letting them think for themselves. An excellent op-ed piece for The Hill by former CBS executive Joe Ferrullo, titled, "Could I Have Some News with My Emotions, Please?" highlights how today's anchors dramatize and hype the news, so much so that the audience has come to expect journalists to emote. And the journalists don't seem to care that they cloud their reporting with their anger and even tears. Self-righteous pomposity has become the norm in much of cable news. Exaggeration and emotionally charged adjectives that anchors of the past would never have used now pass for straight news, even on the big broadcast networks. Of course, this has all gotten much worse in the Trump era, but it's long overdue for today's ranting anchors and pundits on both sides to ask themselves if they're all that different from the populist demagogues they criticize. In fact, cable news has to bear some of the responsibility for polarization in the U.S. It's common now to see one network angrily report a story as baseless and full of lies while their competitor tells the same story as if it were the gospel truth. Right is right and left is left, and never the twain shall meet. Apologies to Rudyard Kipling. I just watched an hour of CNN where about a dozen anchors and pundits pontificated. Not one was right of center. You'll find the same thing over at MSNBC or on the other side of the spectrum at Fox. The loss of the fairness doctrine gave us more diversity of views in television news. The problem is that those views have made the news disappear. We're not going to put the genie back in the bottle, but could you give me some news with the opinion, please?